Hello, folks, and welcome to the Startup with Feras live stream. Thank you for tuning in. You can submit your questions in the comment section, or we have a form in the description field. Just go in there, put your questions. We'd love to hear from you. I don't know about your small wins, big wins, challenges. We're here to answer those questions. And today's topic is about should you start or should you not start a business? 10 considerations. Again, thank you for tuning in. And this topic today is near and dear to my heart. In every venture I've had, and I've had a number of them, I went through these considerations. If not all of them, many of them. So if you're thinking of starting a business and you're not sure, maybe you're not sure why you want to start a business, or maybe you have these questions that you hear from others about the failure rates of small businesses, or maybe someone said you're not ready yet, or you don't have what it takes. So these questions are the top questions I get from founders. On the average, I'm speaking to 1, 2, 3 founders every week, and people who either have an idea or those who started and they're struggling, they're not sure what to do next. So in this video, in today's live stream, I want to answer all those questions, and I want to go into each one of those considerations. So the type of questions I usually get: should I start a business now while I'm not yet ready? Or I want to start a business, but I don't have what it takes. Or let's say you just finished your MBA and you're eager to start your employment with a big brand, and then your family taps into you and said, hey, how about you take on and run our family business? Or you started the business and you hear all these stats about the small businesses and their failure rates, and you're terrified. That is okay. We'll cover all of that today. And before I go into the considerations, I do want to talk about some important concepts to frame our concept about work and employment and entrepreneurship. It helps us frame the discussion. According to a survey by Zapier, 61% of Americans, that's 3 out of 5, they have an idea. They want to start a business. So that's good. We have that entrepreneurial spirit. But the same survey found that 92%, so the vast majority of the 3 out of 5, they never take this idea into reality. So that's one thing to keep in mind. The other thing is, when we talked about failure rates, you look at the stats on the net and you find anywhere from 80%, 95%, some scary stats about failure. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, and we'll quote that a few times today, new businesses, they fail at a rate of 20% the first year, then 30% the second year, all the way to half, 50% of businesses fail after 5 years. And again, from me talking to other people, from some research we've done, I think that the numbers are higher. But the idea is here, as you're thinking to start your business, as you started and you're struggling, this failure issue comes to mind, and that could be it could sort of limit your growth. It could put you in a downward spiral. It sort of becomes more like a self-fulfilling prophecy. So it's important to keep that in check. And when you look into stats, when you see averages could be misleading. You're not an average person, for example. So you might be willing to put more time, more effort. You have more resources. You might have an unfair advantage that you can use in your business. So again, it could be also that some of those numbers could be based on a specific thing that happened. For example, during the pandemic, we had a higher rate of business failures. So keep in mind, when you are in that mindset of, I want to start a business, or I've started and I want to grow it, and you hear about failure, be aware of it, be cognizant of it, because it is real. But don't let that also limit your thinking, limit your vision, limit your ability to start that business. So that's one thing to keep in mind. And on that note, I also want to highlight that we do have an ebook, a short one, on 9 reasons why startup fail. So take a look at that asset. We have it. We'll have the link in the description later after the live stream. So to avoid this failure, or to have no one can guarantee that, but to increase your chances of success, I think it's important to understand why people start businesses. And again, I've talked to a lot of entrepreneurs over the last many years, and from my own experience, and also from stats, I found this cool chart. It is, again, data from the Bureau of Labor Statistics. It shows us different reasons why people start a business. So, for example, you'll see here, some people want to have more flexibility. Some people want to increase their income. Others want to maybe take on a family legacy, or maybe there's a role model that they want to do something similar to what they've seen that role model does in their life. Or maybe it could be that you're stuck, you're laid off, or you're in between jobs, or you left the marketplace and you're back looking for a job and you can't find a job. So you're in a way forced to start a business. All these are reasons why people start a business. And again, I liked this graph here, the illustration where they went, the folks, I think it was on deck, where they looked at the data and they looked at the responses from the business owners, and they mapped it to the different states and different regions. Again, they're looking at one of the primary factors. It doesn't mean that everybody, let's say in Oklahoma, everybody is starting a business just to increase their income. But they looked at the top numbers, the ones that scored the higher in that region. But the idea is there are many reasons why people start a business. And I want to take a short break here, and ask those of you who are now live with us to add a comment. And why is it that you started a business, or why is it that you're thinking of starting a business? And for those of you who are watching this later, or maybe listening to it, I'd love to also hear from you, and we'll be more than happy to comment on it later. So let me see if we have any comments here. All right. It looks like folks are okay with those reasons, which is great. So understanding why is really important. And the reason I'm covering that is, when it comes to looking at employment versus entrepreneurship, it's important. There's a lot of benefits of being employed, and I've given this advice to folks who ask for input. Is I used to always say, hey man, start your own business. You'll be your own boss. You have a chance to there's an upside to it. You'll be able to make independent decisions. So I used to be very gung-ho and encouraging people to start their own businesses. Over time, and as you get older, maybe a little bit wiser, I've qualified that recommendation because I see people struggle. Their financial commitments, there are time commitment. You want to have the right mindset, and not everybody is ready to be their own boss, to have their own business. So having your own business is not for everyone. I would go out and say having your own business is not for most people. And there's nothing wrong with employment. So if you work, especially if you have it in a good company, you're learning, the company takes care of their employees, their opportunities to grow, to get a promotion, to become a manager, or maybe if you're independent independent contributor, you can grow that way. So there are benefits in terms of that sense of security. Nothing is guaranteed, but that paycheck, week in, week out, is there, especially during stable economic times. That is good. You don't have to worry about getting sales and marketing and getting revenue. And there are also other benefits: your PTO, your sick leave, your paternity, maternity type benefits, 401k matching. So there are a lot of benefits to employment. So and this is one of the reasons we're doing this live stream, is to help you decide if starting a business is the right thing to do. My goal is to provide guidance, to share my experience, to share what I've learned from other founders. But I can't make that decision for you. You have to make that decision whether you're ready, willing, and able to start that business. Now, one thing that we want to also be aware, I talked about security and about stability, especially during stable economic times. With the recent waves of layoffs, I live in Silicon Valley. This had hit us hard over the last maybe 12 months or so. But even across the nation, and from a stat that I came across, 40% of Americans have been laid off at least once in their career. And I believe in 2022, 15.4 million people were out of job or were let go or were laid off in 2022. So that's a lot of people. And if 40% of us have been laid off one time or another in our career, so this when you think about employment, it's secure, there are no risks. I want you to think about that again. So again, this is not contradicting what I said earlier. There are benefits to employment, but there are also risks, and nothing is guaranteed in life, and nothing is guaranteed during your employment either. So keep that in mind. As we talked about entrepreneurship versus employment. We talked about the why starting a business. And one idea that you might be thinking about is, you know what, I can do a side hustle. I can keep my day job and I can start a business sort of gradually and do a side hustle. I'm not a big proponent of side hustles. I think side hustles, it's a bad idea. Now, let me qualify. If you use side hustles as a short-term strategy, let's say based on your economic situation, you need some extra cash. Nothing wrong with that. Or maybe you have a business idea and you're not ready to take that leap. You can start freelancing. You can set up a profile on maybe Upwork or some other portal and offer a service and learn how to market yourself, learn how to sell, how to negotiate, how to get customers, how to keep the customers happy. So there are benefits of starting side hustles, but my recommendation is not to make it a long-term strategy. I think you'd be better off if you focus on if you're not doing a side hustle as a sort of a stepping stone to start a business or to help you with some immediate cash needs and maybe some few other reasons. I think you're better off focusing on your full-time employment. Invest the time that you would otherwise put on a side hustle in learning, in mastering your domain. You're more likely to grow, to develop, to become a manager, or again, go up up the ladder as an independent contributor. And you have a higher chance of making more money on the long run if you focus on your day job and learn and spend more time, not just sort of that 8 to 5. So that's my view on side hustles. Again, do it if you need some initial little cash. Do it to test out the idea. You'll learn how to many aspects of the business, market, sell, and otherwise, but don't make it a long-term strategy. So with that in mind, and before we go into the 10 considerations to start or not to start a business, I want you to ask yourself, not if you have what it takes to start a business, but rather, am I ready? Am I ready to put the time, the sacrifices? Am I ready to deal with all the unknowns that come with starting a business? So that's one thing to keep in mind. Another thing is on the financial side, especially if you have a family or if you have other obligations, do I have a financial runway? Can I mitigate some of the financial risk with starting a business? And last but not least, am I committed to see it through? You'll run into challenges, into a lot of bumps, things unforeseen. They'll come your way. So again, don't ask whether you have what it takes. Really do more vetting about the idea itself and your own mindset and your readiness to get into it. So with that, I think we have a nice framework to jump before we jump into the 10 considerations. But let me first take a look at our questions and see what comments we're getting. So we have Sayed here with us. Thank you for your comment. And I might have missed it earlier. He's saying another reason to start a business is to have a second source of income. And I think that's a very, very valid reason. The only thing is, and we'll talk about this in a bit, it's actually under one of the consideration is if you're saying a second source of income, so where's the first source of income? If it's your day job, that's one thing. But if you're doing the business as a side hustle, then go back to what I just described earlier in my views on side hustles. So we'll talk a little bit about having multiple revenue streams as one of the considerations. But thank you for your comment. And let me see. I know we have, again, just a reminder for those of you who are maybe just tuning in right now. You can send a question through the comments, and you can also submit it through the Google form we have. We have it on the community tab on YouTube. So let's see what questions we have here. All right. I know we had some questions submitted to us earlier, so I will go ahead and bring one of those up in a second. And I haven't seen those questions, so it'll be spontaneous, it'll be impromptu on the questions. All right, so the first consideration, pursuing your passion. I hear this a lot, and I probably hear it more from younger entrepreneurs. I'm passionate about this, maybe something that affected them, something that resonates with them, and I want to spend my waking hours following my passion. I know a friend of mine was actually he wanted to be a singer, and he was in sales, and an amazing salesperson. Worked really hard, but that was his passion, is singing, and he tried hard, he worked hard, and he had a coach, and tried different ways to turn that into a business, and just it didn't work out for him. And then he decided to keep it as a hobby. So I want to caution, I think following your passion is really important. I do, however, I want to emphasize that I would say skills are a little bit more important than passion. You don't want to work, you don't want to start a business, or even from an employment perspective, be putting 40, 50, 60 hours a week on something that you hate, right? So that's just not pleasant and probably not sustainable. But the skills are really important. I think when you start a business, you need all sort of skills, and we'll talk about this in a little bit. But just focusing on passion, that I want to be a painter, a photographer, videographer. Again, you can make those hobbies. You can take those on as hobbies, but I wouldn't recommend to kind of mix hobby and business, right? Decide what it is. Again, do this as a side hustle just for a little bit to test out the idea and see if there's a unmet need that you can fulfill. You can generate revenue. You're comfortable marketing and selling. That's totally okay. But just following sort of your passion in a way blindly, I think we mislead people when we say that. But it is an important ingredient. And what I want to highlight too as well is you want to look at this holistically. And if you go online, you see these different Venn diagrams about following your passion, and then the skills that you have, and then what is it that you can get paid for. And I like this framework, Ikigai. I hope I'm pronouncing this properly, and I should know that because I know a bit about the Japanese culture. But it's this idea of looking at, again, your passion, things that you just love doing. You look at the skills and the things that you've developed over the years. You look at what the world needs, and then what is it that you can get paid for. At the end of the day, especially if you live in in a city, in a place like the Bay Area or other places, rent or mortgage is not cheap. And if you have a family, you have to provide for the family. Or if you're planning on a big investment, or money is important. So look at all of that. Look at your own skills, look at the things that you like, and find an area where you can go and provide a service. If there are some pain points you went through an experience trying to buy something, and it was a very negative experience, maybe there's an opportunity for you to do that. Maybe in your area you have people who are big on, let's say, environmentally friendly landscaping, and you're into landscaping. So maybe instead of competing with every other landscaping service, maybe you do something that is environmentally friendly, and you can go and demo your battery backed battery powered lawn mowing fleet and impress people and turn them from a hesitant lead to a ready buyer. I mean, find things around you where you have skills, you have interest, and you love doing. That would be the ideal situation in terms of balancing, passion and skills and making money. So that's really important. So let's see if you have a question on this, or I'd love for those of you who are with us online, if you are, if you've started something and that you're passionate about and then it didn't work out, if you have any experience you'd like to share, just leave us a comment. Or if you have a question here, let's see, I think we do. Yeah, let me bring that up. Do I have at least like in the field that I'm starting a business in? I think it'll be really, so you have to like what you're doing, basically. I mean, imagine, and I always talk about this, my motto is work hard, play hard. So if you're putting 60, 70 hours a week, and I'm not exaggerating, if you're just starting a business, you might need to put that type of that many hours. I mean, imagine if you're putting 60, 70 hours a week and you just don't like what you're doing. I mean, there's certain aspects of a business that you're not gonna like. I remember when in one of my first businesses, I hated accounting. I'm pretty good with numbers, but the whole part of invoicing and collection and paying vendors, I just wasn't good at, but I had to do. It was just myself and my business partner. So there's certain aspects of running a business that you're not going to like. You're not going to be good at, you're not going to like. And over time, as you have better cash flow, you can hire to help in those areas. But initially, especially if cash is tight, and typically cash is tight, you have to do everything. So it's okay if you don't like certain things of the business. You can get over that. You can solve for that later by getting contractors or people to help you with that, or maybe a business partner who he or she could be really good at those areas that you don't like or you're not good at. But the core business, let's say you're in consulting. Let's say you want to do a marriage counseling service, but you hate talking to people. You're an introvert and you prefer just working programming or something else. Like, that's just not going to fly. So I think liking at least a good chunk, I don't know what the percentage is, but there has to be, in my mind, a good chunk of what you're doing day in, day out, something that brings you joy, something that where you feel fulfilled, that you're helping others, especially in the services and consulting business, right? Businesses. A lot of what we cover under the Startup with Feras brand is focused on consulting and services businesses. So if you're not into services, into client service, into gathering requirements, into meeting people, I don't know, if you're very technical and the business you want to start is very technical, that's fine. But who's going to be doing the selling? Who's going to be doing the support? Who's going to be going out there and networking? So you either have to learn that and be ready to learn and maybe change your mindset, or bring in people to help you, either a business partner or maybe your first hire, second hire could help you in those areas. So that's my take on sort of liking, not liking, passion, being passionate about what you do. I think you'll be extremely lucky if you can be in a spot, as I showed earlier, with that framework, where you're getting a whole lot of those areas where you like what you do, people pay you for it, the world needs it, and then you're really good at it. And I think that's something that's more part of the journey to always move towards that. And again, if you started a business already and some of this, some of these concepts are resonating with you, and you said, you know what, I'm already doing something I don't really like, you can always pivot. You can always maybe add a service, gradually maybe add a service, so you can have a second revenue stream for your business, and then gradually pivot into that area and gradually unplug from the things that maybe you don't like as much. So that was the first consideration, and I know we spent a fair amount of time on that. The second consideration is independence and autonomy. And I hear this quite a lot. People want to start their own businesses because they just don't like the corporate structure. They don't like the red tape. They don't like they have to talk to, get approvals to get reimbursed for their phone service or for their internet service. And I know companies sometimes they go overboard on this, and people then I don't like any of this stuff, and I'm a free soul, a free bird, and I want to have my own business so I can make independent decisions and I can be my own boss. There's some truth to that. I think as you become successful and as you have more resources and as you have people, your co-founders or your senior team, you can delegate responsibilities to these folks, and maybe you can have, you can sort of be overseeing things, and obviously, you're the business owner. But I think it's misleading to think that you'll have a whole lot of independence and autonomy early on. I think it's the opposite. When you start a business, someone told me this many years ago, you'll be the CEO and you'll be the janitor and you'll be everything in between. So, and I remember this in our first business. This is after I was laid off. And we first worked in my co-founder's garage, literally here in Silicon Valley, sort of part of the Silicon Valley story. Although it was a services business, not a product business, not a technology startup. But then when we moved into an office, we couldn't afford to have janitorial services. So at the end of the week, I would go Friday night, I'd go and just collect, we had 3-4 baskets. There were 3-4 of us later. And I would just go and take care of that. And that's just part of it. We couldn't afford to have someone come in and clean the office. So that's one aspect. The other aspect is initially, you won't have, if you work for a company, let's say you're a manager, if you have a question about how to deal with a difficult employee, you go to HR. If you have a question about maybe, like, let's say you're in sales, you get a contract from a client, you go to your legal counsel, they help you with the contract. So that there's a lot of resources available to us in a company. When you have your own business, again, especially initially, you don't have access to any of these resources. They're available, but you have to pay money. If you want to go hire a lawyer, I don't know, $250, $350, $450 an hour, right? If you want to talk to a CFO to help you with maybe your financial plan, it's going to be $250, $300 an hour. So that sense of independence initially is not going to be there. And it's important for you to realize that if you're going into this business because you want to be very independent, it's not going to be there right away. And also, when you have that independent decision-making power, with power comes responsibility. So it's a question for you. And again, to remind those of you maybe who are just joining now, we're talking about 10 considerations to start or not to start a business. I'm not here to convince you one way or another. I'm not here to make a decision for you. I'm here to give you these considerations for you to think about. So if making all these independent decisions are important for you, and those are this is what's driving you to start a business, be aware that there are responsibilities that come along with this decision-making process that you now own. So if you went and did a whole lot of hiring because of your sales projections, and you've hired a marketing person, a salesperson, a customer support person, and you made all those decisions, great. And let's say the revenue does not come through or does not come in, and the customers are not paying you. And now what do? So there's weight, there's responsibility that comes with these decisions. So if you're not ready yet to make these types of decisions, then maybe starting business at this time is not ready for you. You have to be ready for that. That with the power that comes with independence. Okay. So again, if you're coming in late, you have a comment, you have a question about some of the things we covered earlier, please leave them. I'd be more than happy to address them. And let's see if we have any other questions that come in here. I don't see them now. So we'll jump and get maybe another question in a little bit. So moving on to consideration number 3. And we touched on this a bit earlier, and that is that significant upside, the earning potential, the wealth, the equity that you can accumulate when you have your own business. And I think that is true, especially obviously for those who are successful and they grow their business and they become profitable. Potentially they could be also, they could sell the business, and obviously there'll be something to be proud of and benefit from financially. But also, even if you decide not to sell the business and you're just growing the business and doing well, there is I would say unlimited or significant potential of making a whole lot more money. See, when you're employed, you have your salary. You might be doing amazingly well and get a bonus every once in a while or get a promotion. That's great. If you happen to be working again in a technology startup and you have some options, some shares, if this startup becomes a unicorn, obviously there's a huge upside for you. But keep in mind that 95% plus of these startups don't make it. So, and I remember in one of the startups, I wasn't a founder. I joined. The founders were friends, and I joined them, and we raised a whole lot of money. This is right after the bubble bursted, way back then, in 2001 or so. I had a whole lot of shares, a whole lot of options, and then the company went under. I was laid off, so those options meant nothing. So there is an upside to starting your business, and especially when you're successful, and you can significantly increase your income. And if you happen to go through an exit event, you get investors, or you sell the business, you might have obviously assets, and you might have wealth for generations to come. At the same time, this is not going to happen initially. There's no overnight success. Overnight success requires years of hard work. So initially, you are going to have to bootstrap. You're going to have to be very frugal. You might have to go and get loans. And we have actually a table here on the next slide showing you some resources for you to get loans. You can go to the Small Business Administration and find different types of loans, whether you want to maybe hire people. Their special loans with typically very competitive, very low interest rates. So there are different types of loans, and I'm not a financial or loan advisor, or I don't get a kick out of any of this stuff, but I'm just letting you know, as a business owner, initially, you have to bootstrap, you have to be frugal, you have to find resources, financial resources, not just to maintain the business and market and be out there and buy equipment, laptops, what have you, but also you have to pay rent at home. If you have a family, you have to obviously provide for your family. If you have kids, they're going to school. So you have to be aware of all of that. Yes, I think starting a business to have a second source of income, or to think about the upside and the potential earning, but initially it's going to be a pretty tight ride in terms of access to cash and availability of financial resources. So keep that in mind. Again, I'm not saying this sort of doom and gloom. You have to borrow $1 million to start a business. No, I'm just saying make sure your own finances are in order. Ideally, when I go into a business and you have a strong credit score, strong credit, because you will have to lean on your own resources at times to get approval for loans or for credit cards or what have you. So keep that in mind. It's just that there's a significant, not a significant investment necessarily. It's going to depend on the service you're offering, but there's a significant financial commitment. And I remember, and again, if you're married, you have a partner, you have your close ones, make sure they're on board with these financial decisions that you're about to make. So if you're going to tap into your savings, make sure they're on board with this, and make sure you're very financially responsible before you do any of these things that I'm about to say. For example, and this is something I did, and I'm not saying I'm super financially responsible, but I think I was frugal and I was bootstrapping, and I had a wife and 3 kids when we started the first business. I don't want to take a loan. So I don't know what was going on at the time, but we were getting all these offers from credit card companies with amazing terms. They would give you like a credit line of like $30,000 for 12 months with no interest. Now, obviously, if you don't pay this amount by the 13th month, you're going to pay like 35% interest. It was crazy. So I did this. I think I was like maybe in the red for like, I don't know. I think maybe like 3 cards and each like 25, 30,000. I was close to like $80,000 in debt to credit card companies, the worst kind of debt. But luckily, or I don't know if it's luckily, but again, it's not to brag or anything, but we did have, myself and my business partner, we were disciplined about spending. I consulted with him before I took this money on my card. And then I had the support of my wife. She wasn't too enthused about it, but she was supportive. And I appreciate that, in her. So again, if you're about to make this financial decision, make sure that your folks, your people who are impacted by such a decision are on board with you. They'll support you better, just in principle. Keeping people engaged and involved before you make a big decision is important. So let's see. Let me get a sip of water here, and let's see if we have some questions. All right. How many hours a week should I plan on putting in when I'm just starting a business? So, I used to joke in this last company before we sold. I used to joke with my team when they asked me to do something. I say, I'll get it to you by end of day. And end of day for me, it was 7:59 a.m. the next day. So if I needed to stay up and finish something, a proposal or whatever it is, I did. And working hard is something that I don't believe you can start and grow a business working 40 hours a week. It's just not doable. I don't think it's possible. I think it's a gimmick. All the stuff you hear about I don't know, 4 hour weeks, or you can become a millionaire and spend 2 hours a week. You see this stuff on YouTube. It's crazy. It takes a lot of time to build that momentum. You'll be learning so many things. You'll be making so many mistakes. So in terms of hours, I don't want to put a sort of a specific number around it, but it's not going to be 40 weeks. If you're serious about starting and growing a business, it's going to be north of 50. Let me put it that way. And then it's going to depend, and we'll talk about this. Actually, I believe it's in a couple more considerations. I'll talk about this more, but be prepared to put the time. It doesn't have to be 80 hours a week every time. In one of the startups, I slept in the office twice under the desk, and I wasn't technical at that time. We had a demo for investors the next morning. And I remember our technical team, our programmers, they had to make that demo work, and they did. And we got funding at that time. And I didn't know I couldn't go home at 10 p.m. and they're still working. And a couple of them stayed up the whole night. So I stayed there just sort of morally to support them morally and to provide moral support. And at that time, there was no DoorDash. So I ended up going and getting dinner and food and snacks for the team. So again, I'm not saying you can do that every time in your life. I'm not saying do this every day, every week, but I'm highlighting what it takes, I think, to succeed, what it takes to make it big. And I do want to talk about work-life balance in a little bit. So maybe we'll leave the rest of the question, the answer to when I cover that consideration. Let's see. Do we have another question? All right. Yes, we do. How much money should I expect to put into a new business, and how long typically before it's profitable? I'm a consultant, I guess, at heart. I'm going to say the answer that consultants love saying, it depends. So if you are going to start a business where you have to put a lot of capital, we talked about if you're doing, a financial advisor, for example, I don't believe you need a whole lot of capital in terms of equipment, in terms of maybe cars, like a fleet or whatever, right? So it's your experience. You might need to have access to certain maybe models, financial models, or certain software. Obviously you need your laptop, your computer, and obviously the corporate identity, the website, the business card, what have you, and some budget for marketing and sales. So if you're thinking of this type of service, maybe something that doesn't need a whole lot of equipment, doesn't need a lot of inventory, you can bootstrap, you can start in with little money. But you do have, and we're not talking about business plan today, but part of starting a business, and I think part of one of the main reasons why businesses fail, they don't do enough market research, they don't do the proper planning. Part of that business plan that I recommend that you do, and we do have a few videos. We have a playlist on business planning. Check those out. We can add the link in the description after the live stream. But part of the business planning is to sit down and look at your competitors, the pricing of similar services. How is it that you're going to differentiate? If you're differentiating on quality, maybe you charge a premium. So there, that discussion about the what the amount of money that I should have before I start a business, it really should be grounded in the business planning that you've done. I'm assuming you've done before you started the business, or if you're just thinking about it, it's never late. So put that in there in terms of how you want to price, in terms of what it takes to deliver the service, if you have to pay third-party contractors, or maybe you have to hire to help you deliver. So that's one thing. Also, in terms of having a financial plan in place, part of your business plan, and making sure you have, I would say, like a 6-month runway, right? Both for the business and all the business expenses that you anticipate, as well as your own personal financials, especially if you're the breadwinner, or maybe you're not the only breadwinner, maybe you're the primary breadwinner, or maybe even if you're the secondary breadwinner, if there are expectations for you at home to bring in a certain amount of money, make sure you put all of that into consideration as you're starting that business. And again, a side hustle would be appropriate here, where you can try things out for maybe 3 months, where you can maybe sell a service, see how you can sell a service, see how much you can sell that service for, to get some data points from the marketplace. So that's in terms of how much money should I expect. I think it has to be, again, grounded in your business planning. And then the second part of that question is, how long typically before the business is profitable? And that is that's another tough one. I'll tell you from a recent experience, a recent venture. It was this is not specifically in services, but it was in the crypto space. And I'm not promoting crypto or anything, but I do just a little bit in crypto. I'd love sort of to know how it worked. We had big plans, and then there were changes in the industry, and it was very, very small investment to try out this one idea, and then it really didn't work, and we moved on, right? So there wasn't a big investment. But sometimes you have to put a whole lot of money, and then now in terms of profitability, it's really going to depend on where Bitcoin goes, right? So again, maybe not an ideal example for a services business, but I would say you have to look at couple of variables. So profitability is, you have cost, right? Whatever you're taking home, hiring, marketing, equipment, all of that, systems, there's these costs, and then revenue. So when revenue exceeds costs, then you're starting to be profitable. So you have to put those projections in the business plan. I would say, again, the sales cycle is part of it. If you're selling, let's say the financial advisor example, if you're selling to a high net worth individuals, this is not going to be a 1 week turnaround contract. People have to vet you. You have to do probably a whole lot of interviews, questionnaires, come back to the individual, to the couple, with the way you want to manage their wealth. So the sales cycle is a factor. So I would take that into consideration when you are looking at determining profitability. So put that part of your plan, and then once you have it on paper, again, you can maybe hire a CFO for a few hours to maybe critique your plan. Maybe you can talk to a friend who's in that industry, and then whatever you come up in the business plan, assume it's going to take longer. It's going to take more money, more resources, and it's going to take longer. So this is my non very specific answer to your question. But hopefully I gave you some pointers. Let's look at the fourth consideration now. So this is about creativity, problem solving, and innovation. So a lot of people, they feel they're constrained in a company, and the role they're doing typically in a company, even if you're in a smaller company, there are a lot of you might wear different hats, but you have a primary function, a primary role that you're doing. And that could be limiting to creativity. I know a friend of one of my team members here, teammate, they said, this person, smart guy, MIT, I believe, Ivy League for sure, he could not work in our organization. He just could not. He's a free soul. So he started his own nonprofit, and he's doing really well. So if you feel that the employment, working for someone else is limiting to you, then having your own business gives you, I think, a lot of opportunity to be creative, to problem solve. And a lot of innovations in history, whether it was the printing press or the combustion engine, or they disrupted lives of people at the time. And your innovation and your problem solving doesn't have to be that dramatic, or it doesn't have to be a watershed moment in history. But if you find it in you that you get a whole lot of fulfillment when you're helping people, if you're a marriage counselor and you help people resolve their issues and help them set up an approach for conflict resolution, and that's just very rewarding for you. I mean, maybe we talked about passion, and sounds, if you're good at it, I mean, that's something you can pursue. So I think keep that in mind is that you can be you have to be creative, you have to problem solve, even if you're an employee. Otherwise, I don't think you'll have chances to be promoted, or you'll have chances to, you might be on top of the list to being laid off if you're not contributing, and if you're not learning, if you're not being creative. So you need that even in your regular day job. But as an entrepreneur, if you want to start a business, I believe there's a huge opportunity for you to be very creative. And if you have an idea now and you're not sure, you have some skills and you're not sure how to maybe leverage these skills to start your own business, I mean, look around, look at the things that are trending up, look at what is hot in the industry, and use these skills that you have with maybe some new certifications, with maybe find, if you're an accountant and it's a crowded space that you're in, maybe you can go and find companies who are into sustainability and they're growing in that space, and learn about sustainability and different business models and financial models, and you'll have a better chance of being an accountant as maybe CPA, or as a consulting, financial consultant to those companies, because that sector of the economy is growing. And other ideas include now the whole thing about remote work, hybrid versus in office. Again, if you have some of those skills, you can learn more about it and go and start a business in that space. Talking about creativity in marketing, a lot of changes around data privacy, about digital transformation. So I think if you have, my recommendation, if you have certain skills in these areas, but maybe you're not up to speed on the latest and on what's trending, fill that gap with certifications, with maybe doing some projects. Again, this is a good opportunity to do a side hustle, to do some freelancing, so that you can add that to your resume. Another thing I came across is you can be a professional organizer. I didn't know that such a thing existed. You can actually be a certified professional organizer, CPO, and people look for someone like this. So you can look at, I have some examples like remodeling consulting, and add the energy, the sort of energy efficiency aspect to it. You can, if you have a business in plumbing, or you have that's your area of expertise, potentially you can add again something around water efficiency, right? These things are trending up, and people are interested in these new services. So if you don't have expertise, you don't have the skill set in what's trending, look at what else this profession or this type of business requires. And let's say I have maybe 60-70% of it, and then I just need to maybe over the next 6 months learn these new skills, and then start the business and be very creative and innovate and problem solve. So that is on that consideration. The next one, but let's see, I don't know if we have any questions. Let me check. No questions yet. So I'll take this opportunity to take a sip of water. All right. So the next consideration is on flexibility and work-life balance. So we touched on this just a little bit earlier. Some folks, again, I want to have my own business. I want to be able to go home whenever I want. I want to be able to take vacation whenever I want. I want to do this. I want to do the other. Don't want to be the bearer of bad news, but it doesn't work that way, especially initially. Um, if you're starting a business now, you're not gonna have a whole lot of flexibility. There's just so many things to learn. There's so many things to do. Um, even if cash is not a problem, let's say you have investors or you have your own savings. I mean, if you have investors, they're going to be breathing down your neck about every penny you're spending. So that flexibility or that perceived flexibility that, hey, I'll have my own business and I'll have time and I have this work-life balance, I think it's inaccurate. And I think the concept of, and others have talked about this, the concept of work-life balance, I think it's a myth. I'm a big believer of having quality time for your own, workout, train. I do martial arts. I love it. I love outdoors. I love to listen to books. I have a family. I love spending time with my family. Whatever spiritual practice that you do, I do what I do, and I believe those are important. So you need time for that. It's not all about the mighty dollar. I'm a capitalist at heart. I want to start businesses, grow businesses, sell businesses, make a lot of money. Nothing wrong with that at all. I want to help others as I'm accumulating wealth. That's just part of my DNA is to help and share. But to do that, to start a business and grow it and be successful, you have to sacrifice. You have to sacrifice something. Again, give time to family, give time for my me time is important, but maybe you sacrifice watching the binge watching on Netflix instead of maybe doing this on 3 series. Just do 1 series this one weekend, right? So this concept of work-life balance, I think, is really important. And I know people criticize this hustle culture, but I don't know what to tell you. Ask anyone who's been successful. They've done it before. They've achieved something worthwhile. They had to make sacrifices. And I think those sacrifices have to be calculated, and it's something that you're comfortable with. So I'll give you an example, personal example. In my first job out of college, I worked for Home Shopping Network, and I was technical at the time. I was a hardware design engineer, and I didn't know any better. I didn't have good work ethics, and I didn't have a good work ethic. So I'd show up like 8:01 and leave at 4:59, and I thought that was it. I'm doing my job. They're paying me, and that's what they get. And then 2 or 3, I think 2.5 years into it, there was a massive layoff. Fortunately, luckily, I was spared. But that was an opening, it was an eye opener for me. I saw people, and it was a massive layoff. It seemed like 50% of the company. And I don't know why I was spared. I probably should have been on that list, but things work in life in ways that you don't know. But from that really opened my eye of the importance of being dedicated to what you do, working hard. And the role I was doing, I wasn't really, really happy. I was doing okay in what I was doing in the technical part of it. And then I moved close to business and marketing. And from that point on, I started to work really hard. I would raise my hand for new initiatives. If travel was required, I would do it. And again, the wife was very supportive. And then promotions and bonuses followed, and ended up moving from Florida to Silicon Valley with the company and with a big promotion. But initially, 2 things I'm saying here. Initially, I was having a lot of life, balance, spending a lot of time outside of work and doing things. And I could have probably done better at work if I dedicate some of my free time to work or to learn more about what I was doing. And the second thing is, at the time, I was able to make those sacrifices, and my family was supportive. Later, when the kids got older and they went to school, started going to school, my wife wanted to go back and finish her education. And then when she started to work, and she was working as a teacher, very demanding job, I couldn't do the same types of commitment, at work at the time that I did earlier. So during different phases or stages in our lives, we might be able sacrifice, to make more sacrifices. We might be able to put more time. We might be able to work 14 hours a day. But later, again, when I had an aging parent to take care of, I couldn't do the 14 hours a day. And at other times I did. So this work-life balance concept, maybe we dedicate another video to it. But if you're, again, I don't want us to lose the forest by focusing on the tree. We're talking about considerations to start or not to start a business. So if you have, I think, this impression or this idea, I don't want to call it an illusion. Maybe it's an illusion that, hey, I'll have a lot of flexibility and there'll be work-life balance. Initially, you're not going to have that. And you have to decide for yourself if you can put the time into this new business, if you have the mental, the mindset, the mental capacity, the space, the and the energy that is required to start a business. If you don't have those, maybe this is not the time to start a business. Another example here, before we move to the next one, is a founder I was speaking with earlier last year. He wanted to grow the business. He was doing it really well. They just hit their small business. He just hit his $1 million revenue, annual revenue, and he was very happy. And he wanted to double that. So I gave him some ideas, some recommendations, and he started to hire. And then we met a couple of months down the road, and he's not making any progress. And then another month, and actually he fired the person he hired. And I said, what's going on? It turned out that, and I asked him, I said, how many hours a week are you working? Again, it's not the number of hours, but you can't do this kind of growth to double your revenue and working 40 hours a week. He said, I'm putting 30 hours a week. I said, my friend, you can't do that. It's not going to work. You're kidding yourself. It turned out that he was going through a divorce, and they had 2 or 3 kids, I forgot. And his mind is very occupied. So for him, growing the business at that time is a bad idea. So I think he knew that. He just wanted someone sort of to tell him that, or to give him the permission to slow down, take care of the problems at home, then come back and tackle this business growth idea. So again, I'm saying take care of your family, take care of yourself, but starting a business, growing a business, making it big requires a lot of hard work, a lot of commitment. And if this time in your life is not the right time to do that, then you can maybe delay that decision of starting a business till when you're ready. All right, let's see if we have questions on this. We have, what is the right age to start a business? I'm not going to tell you it depends. I mean, I read some study recently. I think, don't quote me on this. I'd have to verify. I believe 20 or 25%, if I remember correctly, of folks who just finished college, they start a new business. I don't know if they do it full time or they do it as I think to start a business. I think I remember a story venture capitalists talk about. There are benefits. If you're younger, typically you have more time, you have less commitments, you can put more time into the business. If you start a business later in your career, obviously you have more life experience, more work experience, you have a bigger network. So the right age is the age when, again, you're ready to make some sacrifices, you're willing, ready, and able. So those are the things I think to keep in mind. I wouldn't give just a specific answer, I think, in terms of what the right age is. If you watch Shark Tank, you've seen some very young folks who come in as entrepreneurs, and you see people of all ages. Let's see if there's another question here. We have someone from LinkedIn here. Let's see. What if one has a business partner, such as a co-founder? Would that make room for growing the business successfully while allowing for work-life balance? So the question is, thank you. I can't see the name, but thank you for, I think that the LinkedIn integration here is maybe not working properly, but thank you for the question. Very, very good question. So if you have a business partner, co-founder, will that give you more time for work-life balance? If I have to say yes or no, I would say yes. I'd also want to qualify that answer. I think, and by the way, we do have a playlist, a number of videos on working with business partners. I recommend you look at those. I know in all my ventures and 7 to date, I've always had business partners. So maybe I'm biased. My data is skewed, my personal data. But people are successful with business partners, and people are successful without business partners. So there are a lot of benefits of having a business partner. And again, check out the videos on that. There's pros and cons. But in terms of work-life balance, I think uh, if you're in a growth mode and you need both of you to be putting 50, 60 hours a week, then we're back to what I said earlier about the sacrifices. But if you're at a phase where maybe you're not experiencing, or you don't want to experience this massive growth, or this really aggressive growth, then it might be okay. And I know a friend, two friends of mine who have an agency on the East Coast, and I've known them for now 20 years. They're pioneers in search engine optimization, and they attract top-notch clients. They demand top premium. They're amazing at what they do. But they've never said to me explicitly, but knowing them, they're not in this mindset of just growing a business and having an empire, and they seem to be just enjoying that opportunity because they're really good at what they've done. They're really good at what they do. They've been doing it for many years, and they're business partners, and they're happy with that setup. So I think, to summarize, if you're in this aggressive growth mode, and you want to just be the number one and beat everyone else and ahead of the competition, I think having a co-founder and both of you putting a whole lot more time into it, I think you're not going to have as much balance. But maybe in a different stage of the company, I think having a co-founder would definitely help. It would help a lot. But again, there are pros and cons of having co-founders. So do take a look at those videos. Thank you for the question. I'd love to also hear if you have any feedback on that, or from your own experience. Would love to hear from you as well. Let's see. Do we have another question on this? Let's see. Have you seen people go into business with unrealistic expectations? Yes, me included here. When we started this business startup with Feras, I thought we were going to get million views right away. It's good to be hopeful. It's good to have hope and be enthusiastic about the business. I think the unrealistic expectations, it comes from what's that saying? Experience comes from bad judgment, and good judgment comes from experience, right? So something like that. So I think if you haven't done enough vetting, I think of the idea, if you haven't talked to a lot of other business owners, if you haven't done your due diligence, I think you're going to go into this with some unrealistic expectations, be it on how long it's going to take you to deliver, how long it's going to take you to get sales, how long is it going to get you to convince people to join your company. All of those are things that will take longer than what you typically think. So, and then there are things that happen outside of your control. There's the known, there's the known unknowns, and there's the unknowns. Who knew that, the pandemic, COVID, let's say you just started a business at that time, and everything was shut down for a couple of months. So I think more preparation. I think I said in the live stream a couple of weeks ago, the 5 Ps. Prior preparation prevents poor performance. So more preparation, a bit more time on business planning, I think would help a lot in terms of getting into the business with the right expectations. All right, let's see if we have something else. All right. Don't see any questions now or comments. But again, if you just joined us, we are talking about 10 considerations if you should or should not start a business. We covered 5 so far, and now we're going into number 6. And this is about personal growth and learning. A lot of us love to learn new things. We talked a little bit about skills. As an entrepreneur, and if you have an idea or you started something already, I'm going to make an assumption that you have some technical know-how. If you're going to be an HR consultant, an advisor, you're expected to be an expert. So if you're starting a services business, a consulting business, I'm expecting that you have some level of expertise. You don't have to be the guru, that number one guru in that area. But if you know more than 20% of the population, then you're an expert to them, right? So expertise is more of a spectrum in my mind. So a lot of folks want to start that business because they love this one thing, in helping others and providing services. And so those technical skills, I'm assuming that you have, and you have to always, always you have that thirst for that hunger for knowledge is really important, especially for a consultant. People expect you to know, to go in there and offer that expert advice, right? So that's important. But keep in mind that, again, when we talk about should I or should I not have a business, there are other skills that you'll have to learn. You'll have to learn about the marketplace. You'll have to learn about the industry you're in. You'll have to learn if there's specific certifications that you have to do that maybe you did not think of. So just knowing your technical area, and when I say technical here, I don't mean programming, but whatever it is. If it's landscaping, it's landscaping. If it's financial services, financial services. If you're a communication coach, if you're a loneliness coach, whatever it is, you're an expert in that. There are many different type of expertise that you have to acquire and learn over time. Another one is business skills. So we talked about marketing and sales and HR. Those, most of us are not born with these. If we worked in a company for 20 years, we might have been exposed to sales, but we probably avoided, especially if we're technical, we've avoided the sales department like the plague. So you'll have to learn sales if you're starting a business. Who's going to sell for you? You can hire someone, but it's different. Founders are the best at raising money, for their businesses, and founders are the best at selling. Even if you're not very good at it, I mean, your expertise is just going to shine when you talk to people. When you demonstrate your service or the product, maybe that you package your service about, I mean, just people are going to see that. They're going to see that passion and that knowledge. It's going to come through. But you have to learn other business skills that you don't have today. Contracts, back office of IT, cybersecurity, making sure no one is going to hack your services. So those things are, you have to keep in mind. If you're big on learning, you have to learn other things beyond just the technical component of the service and the consulting that you offer. There's also people skills, and that is really important. Internally, as you hire people, how to support them, how to have an open communication channel, how to help them grow, how to give them feedback. It's really hard to sit down and give people feedback. Positive feedback is easy. When you want to give them, their areas of improvement, especially when it's a small company, there's no HR manager and there's no process for that. So learning these people skills and how to manage people is important. Also, people skill with customers. Not every customer is going to be, nice and professional, right? And initially, you might not have the luxury of saying no to business. So people skills are important. And mindset. That mindset of learning, that mindset of resilience. When you fail, you pick yourself up. I always say, cry for a minute, cry for an hour, cry for a day. It's okay. And I do get emotional. And then I'm a tough guy. I'm an outdoors guy. I'm a martial arts guy. But I think crying is good for the soul. So feel, if you put a lot of time and energy into something, the big initiative at work, and you want to let's say you went to a conference and it cost you $5,000 and you didn't have that money and you had to put it on the credit card, and you came back with 0 leads, or no one is responding to your emails after that conference, it's gonna hurt. So how do you pick yourself up and get back and go after the next conference and go after the next lead? That's all in our mind, right? So that resilience, that being comfortable with the unknown, and we do have a video on the mindset that entrepreneurs should have. So check that out as well. But I think it's really important to be willing. I think if you're getting into entrepreneurship, getting into a new business because you love to learn and explore things, I think that's admirable and that's great. Just be aware that there's a lot to learn. And I'll give you an example here from one of the companies that I started. we were part of a franchise, and the franchisor mostly attracted people in, I would say, those who've sort of, they climbed their first mountain. They've been successful in their career. The kids are now older. Excuse me. The kids are now older. They've gone to college. You have time on your hand, and you want to start something new. And let's say you're in your mid 40s. So that's what those are the people that franchisor attracted to start their own businesses. So typically they've known something in one area in the industry, and I think they would do really well in, say, project management, or maybe in marketing, or maybe they were technical, they can do programming, but they were struggling as a business. And I was actually ended up being one of the coaches for other franchisees, and I traveled all over the globe teaching sort of how to take. We became a top earner in that system, and how to go from zero to be a top earner. And I think I probably had 100 people that I coached and worked with, and I think those, if I remember, I mean, what's still clear in my mind, those who did well, again, mid-aged folks, those who were adaptable and they were learning new skills beyond their core competency, those are the ones who succeeded. And others who struggled, although they paid a lot of money to be part of that franchising system and they put the effort, but they were, I don't know whether it was a mindset or something else, they were stuck on not learning new things. They struggled, never really made it. So again, personal growth and learning is great. Just be ready that you have to do a whole lot of learning before you can have a whole lot of earning. All right. And that was my corny joke for the day. Okay. Let's see if we have anything else. I don't see any questions. So we still probably finish here in probably 15 minutes. We have 4 more to go. So the 7th consideration is impact and contribution. A lot of folks, or some folks, they want to have an impact. They want to create positive change in their families, in their community, in the industry. Not that employment doesn't offer that. I think if you work for a good company where they have a strong social responsibility program, that could be fulfilling that way. Or maybe you work for a nonprofit, or maybe you work in the government, you're a public servant. Those could be very fulfilling if that is something important to you, having that impact and contribution to society. But if you're starting a business and that's a primary driver, just be ready that it's going to take a while before you do that, before you can really contribute and have an impact, because it takes so much time to get that first client. It takes so much time to deliver that service. It takes so much time to collect that money. It takes so much time to start, when you start to hire and manage people. It takes so much time to learn how to do marketing, how to do search marketing, how to do email marketing. There's just so many things you have to do, and you have to do right and learn from your mistakes. So having that impact, it's going to take a while, I think, before you can do that. So keep that in mind. My recommendation, again, I speak from a personal experience, is that if that's important to you, start doing it even in smaller chunks initially. I remember my co-founder and I, and both of us were big on volunteering and helping others. So when a nonprofit came to us, we couldn't do the service at no charge, but we would give an hour of consulting at no charge. We would go do on the weekend, not during the weekdays, because we were busy trying to establish the business during the weekdays. And we would do maybe a 2-hour workshop for that nonprofit on the things that we knew about, right? So that's one thing. And then as the business, so it was in our DNA, it became part of the company DNA. And as we hired more people, and again, you as a business owner, as a CEO, as an entrepreneur, what you do, actually you're modeling for the rest of the company. So as we start to do more of this, as we became a bit more established, had more time, we start to give some significant discount to nonprofits. And we did a lot of pro bono work. And then later, once we hit profitability, we decided to make, that was an annual goal. And I'm so fortunate, and I'm happy, proud that we were able to do that every year we took 1 to 2, depending on the year, to 2% of our revenue, top line revenue, and we would give this to nonprofits. And if you have $1 million in revenue, not profit, in revenue, we would take 1 to 2%, $10,000 to $20,000 a year, and we would distribute this to nonprofits. And then as we hit in the last business, we hit 7 digits, 8 digits, right? So this was not an insignificant amount, but it was part of our DNA, and we were happy to share. And we made it part of the culture for the company, where employees would recommend a nonprofit, and then we would match what they did, and actually would just donate on their behalf. And then you see that sense of contribution, just part of the company culture. So if that's important to you, again, I think having your own business would allow you to do that. Initially, it might be measured, it might be, you're contributing smaller amounts, but over time, I think you can do a lot. Let's see if we have a question here or a comment. Again, for those of you who are watching this later or listening to this later, leave us a comment still. I would love to interact with you after the live stream. And you can also go to startupwithferas.com, our website. We do have a daily, we have a newsletter dedicated for early stage founders, those who have an idea or they started and they're struggling. So it's the Daily Advisor, the newsletter dedicated to founders of new businesses. So check out the website when you have a chance. We have this learning path that talks about different aspects of the business, but do sign up for the Daily Advisor if you're finding this content relevant, helpful, and interesting. So do we have a question here? There's a comment. Let's see. Yeah, I think we added a link. What was the hardest new skill for you to learn in business? What was the hardest new skill for me to learn in business? Early on, sales. Later stage is it different. I'll talk about it maybe in a different video. But early on, learning sales was really hard. I was close in previous, when I was employed earlier in a big company, a mid-sized company, and then in a startup. I was close to sales and project management, marketing, but I always say I never asked anyone for money, and it was really hard. I'm speaking now. I speak publicly. I'm an author, right? Whatever. I'm on YouTube, but it was hard for me to pick up the phone and get leads. It was hard for me to network. It took a lot of time and effort. I took so many courses in sales. Way back then we had this, I talked about this in a previous video, like the CDs that I was listening to and taking notes. So that was, and I think if I did it, everyone else can do it. And I think it does take practice, the 10,000 hours, that principle of deliberate practice. You end up becoming good at it, very good at it, and master at it. You just have to put the time. So, but everybody has, their own challenges. But now it's for me. Then let's move on to the consideration number 8, and again we have 3 more to go, 8, 9, and 10. The other consideration why people start a business, and I think one of the viewers, one of the participants earlier said that, is to have a second source of income, or as I have it here, is to diversify, to have diversification in multiple income streams. So this is a bit related to the concept that we discussed earlier about wealth and equity and having an upside. I think in terms of diversification, initially, again, I'm highlighting initially. Eventually, when you're successful and when you're profitable, you can take from that profitability and invest in assets or whatever. You can start another business. You can fund. You can become an investor and fund other startups. There's a lot that you can do once you become successful and very profitable. Initially, think about a new business as actually an expense, not as a new revenue stream. Initially, you have to invest not only your time, even if you have a co-founder, you have to put money into it. And again, you can get investors, and there are pros and cons of getting investors. You get investors, it could be a loan. You have to pay the loans back with interest, or if you bring in investors, they're going to have equity. They have equity. That means when you make it big, they're going to take a chunk of that revenue or that profit or that sale when you sell the company. So there are always pros and cons to this, to everything we were discussing in business. But I think initially, don't think as a new business as as another or a second source of income, it is going to be that when it's successful. Initially, you have to invest in it. You have to put, again, maybe tap into your savings, and that will make things difficult, in terms of you looking at your saving account I depleted my 401k plan when I started my first business. Maybe, now I probably would not do it again. And again, I had an amazingly supportive wife. She believed in what I was doing, and we did see signs of success. I didn't do it irresponsibly. And again, I don't take any of these decisions very lightly. Their decisions were very significant, consequences. So long story short, a second business, maybe a third business in the future, all these are good to enable you to have multiple income streams, but initially it's not the case. You have to actually put money into it. You have to put resources into it. So if that's, again, not your cup of tea, maybe is not a good idea to start a business, at least till you're ready for that. Let's see. Number 9, legacy building. So another consideration is about legacy. Some entrepreneurs want to start a business because they want to have a lasting business. They want to have it's related to this idea of impact that we touch on earlier. I think money is not the number one factor. A lot of startups, initially, you might want to come in, get in a business because you want to make money. But once you achieve that, there'll be other things that will bring you fulfillment. And helping others is one. Creating a company culture that is second to none is a legacy. And I remember one of the things that touched my heart, a few years after we built a company, we had an amazing culture. We sold the business. And I was there after we sold the business when we got acquired. 2 years down the road, an ex-colleague, she wrote on LinkedIn, "I still remember and cherish those days when we were at Enor." That was the last company that we built and sold. That, I don't know how to describe this. It touches your heart. And I hadn't talked to this person for maybe 2 years, right? It was very refreshing, and I was very grateful. And it makes you feel great as an entrepreneur that you built a company, built a culture where people love what they do, love the company. They give it they give it their best, and you take care of them as well, right? And I think that is, that's really important, is building a culture that you're proud of, that, and especially as a small business, there's not a lot of red tape. You have a lot, you can do a lot for your team, even if you don't have a lot of money. A nice word, a kind word, give your team an opportunity to grow and be able to, to learn new skills and be out there, with clients and be out there in the industry. So all of those, when we say about legacy, it doesn't have to be the legacy of Hewlett and Packard, HP, that their family names, and then they establish that legacy. But even as a small business owner, I think there's a lot of opportunity for us to build something very unique and very special. And maybe another use case is you just, for the younger crowd, or if sometimes even the older crowd, if let's say you just graduated from college, you finished your MBA, and now your family, "Hey, my friend John, now it's your time to run the business." And the business has been running for 10 years and it's established, and they're looking for this new blood, new talent, new ideas. I had a friend of mine who had a family. His dad was running the business, and his dad wasn't very technical, and he was about to retire. So the son came in, and he comes from a technical background, and they did a huge, significant digital transformation across every aspect of the business, and they did really well. So although in this case you're not starting a business, you're not building a legacy from scratch, but you're taking something that was where someone built, and then you're taking it to the next level. And another use case is, let's say you've saved some money, you want to invest. So potentially you can also, if you don't want to start a business from scratch, you can buy a company, maybe a company that's not doing well, or somebody wants to retire, and you can come in with your vision, your ideas, with your passion, with your skills, and you can take that business and grow it to a different level. So those are things to keep in mind if you're thinking about legacy building. And then last but not least, and this is maybe the least pleasant one of all, is that you're forced to start a business. You're forced to go into a business. Now, how can you be forced into this? I guess you can't be forced into anything, but that happened to me. Was a VP at the startup. We raised a lot of money, ran out of, couldn't sell, ran out of money, got laid off. It was 2003. That was my first startup, first company. Looked around. It was really tough. It was really hard to find a job. So what do? I speak with people, and then a friend of mine said, "Hey, I have this idea. How about we give it a try?" So I wasn't planning on starting my own business. I didn't know anything about having my own business. I might have thought about it every once in a while here, because you hear, again, as I said earlier, 61% of us think of having their own business, but we never take serious actions toward it, or some of us don't take serious action towards it. So after speaking with this, good friend of mine, we decided to do this. I said, we'll give it a 3-month period. If we can sell the service, we were selling web design. This is 2003. It was cutting edge at the time, trust me. So we did that, and we were able to sell a couple of projects, and we said, you know what, if we can do this, we can then grow it, and we stuck to it, and it turned out to be a really good business for us. It wasn't easy, but we did it. So a lot of times, if you're in between jobs, you're laid off, starting your own business could be that option, could be that opportunity. And it worked for me. It didn't work for others. What I want to leave you with is, don't rush into that decision, because especially if you've been recently laid off, and again, I experienced it on both ends of it, and it's difficult, whether you're telling people, whether you're laying off people or you're getting laid off, it's awful, it's terrible. You have that feeling of inadequacy, or what did I do wrong, or what happened? But once if you're in that mindset, and maybe you're still sort of emotional about it, don't rush into this big decision of starting a business. Maybe the biggest decision in your life, maybe aside from starting maybe a family, or getting married, and like, these are big decisions to start a business. And especially if you don't have an income now, if you're laid off, you're going to be tapping into your savings. So be very diligent. Go through all the steps we talked about. Again, check out the business planning series to make sure that this business is the right fit for you. So again, if you're in between jobs, or if you've been laid off recently, or you can't, you just can't stand what you're doing today, and you just have to leave and do something, do not rush that decision. Take your time to vet the idea, do the business planning, and go. And again, you might luck out like I did, and have a lot of success. So those were the 10 considerations on whether you should start or not start a business. I have a couple things here to wrap up the live stream with, but let's see if we have any questions or comments from our participants. Were you ultimately glad that you got laid off? Glad that I was laid off. I don't know, man. I'm very fortunate. I'm content. I'm grateful, all around. There are always challenges in life, and I have my fair amount of challenges. If you have money, health could be an issue. If you're healthy and you have money, you could have an issue with a family member. There are always challenges. Life is not meant to be perfect. Don't believe the marketers who tell you otherwise. But that's how we grow. That's how we learn. So yes, it led to the success, or this humble success that I've had over the years, because without it, I would have been still an employee, and I was doing okay. I was making good money, but it was a very difficult experience. That being laid off, it was very difficult. So I would say, if you can avoid being laid off, that would be my recommendation. Which means, again, sometimes you can't control it. A company could just shut down a whole division. You could be the hardest working person on the planet, or the hardest working person in that company, in that division, but the whole division is shut down, and you're out of job. But at times, we're maybe not giving the job our best, and maybe we're in the bottom 20% performers. So you are likely to get the axe, and it's just how it works. It's unfortunate. Just how business works. So I would say avoid to the extent that you can, avoid being in the bottom 20%. And again, no judging. I sympathize. I understand the challenges and what goes through when these layoffs happen. So that would be my recommendation. So I think that was the last question. If you have any comments, let us know. And again, for those of you who are listening to this later, do leave us a comment. We do have these live streams every Wednesday at 10 p.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern. Love you to be with us. If you can't make it, obviously listen to the recording. It'll be on the channel. And then if you're finding this content useful, click the like button, subscribe to the channel, share this video. All this help us get this content out there to those who need it. So and don't forget to sign up for the Daily Advisor, our newsletter dedicated to early stage founders, those who are about to start a business or they're started and struggling. So until then, I hope you have a great week, and go to the channel, leave us a comment, or to the website, leave us a question there, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.